and the keycard I shouldn't have kept. The keycard came with the room number written in a precise, almost prim hand. 1709. Hotels love numbers that end in 9. They feel like a promise that something extra is tucked just past the corridor bend. I wasn't supposed to be in that hotel or that room or the life that converged inside it. But I kept the card because keeping is a habit with me. I keep receipts, grudges, and small lies I tell myself to survive nicer rooms than I deserve. I met Tessa a month before the card appeared, in an elevator that transported us between two different performances. I was leaving a compliance seminar I'd been hired to make palatable to executives who hate the word audit. She was arriving at a fundraiser for a nonprofit whose board wore virtue like tailoring. She stepped in as the doors closed, hair up, a string of tiny gold around her neck, a look that said she knew which cameras mattered. She glanced at my name badge, Nathan Bram, and said, "You sound like a detective." "Only on spreadsheets," I said. "Spreadsheets keep better secrets than people," she said. "People leak." The elevator chimed floor 12, then 13, which the hotel had refused to be superstitious about. She smiled in a way that put heat in the space between our shoes. "I'm Tessa," she added, like a breath. I told myself I liked the packed calendar more than the person, because liking the person would mean I had to renegotiate my life. People make vows with their day planners. Mine swore off complications. Back then, I was engaged to Harper, a woman who could fold a weekend into origami. Dinner here, show there, a walk that made you feel curated. She believes in doing life well. I believe in not leaving fingerprints on the walls. Tessa texted after the elevator and before dessert. "You always look like you're holding back a better story," she wrote. I replied, "You always look like you're telling one out loud." We kept it clever for a week. Clever is a preface you read when you intend to skip to chapter 3. We met in places that let us pretend we weren't choosing. A bookstore cafe with plants and bad chairs. A roof where the wind did half our talking. A jazz bar that was good at complicity. We did nothing that would get a video flagged. We did everything that would turn an ordinary Thursday into something sharp enough to draw blood. An ankle grazing a shin under a table. A kiss at the back door that felt like a blueprint for worse ideas. Every story has a hinge. Mine is a keycard with 1709 penned neat on white, slipped into a plain envelope deposited at my office reception by a messenger in a cap, according to Layla, our receptionist, who sees a lot but remembers only what you ask her to. No note, just the promise of an unlocked thing. I went because of course I did. Tessa answered the door barefoot, a sweater that had been a turtleneck in another life falling off one shoulder, a smile that landed in the middle of my chest. Before I could step inside, she took the card from my hand and tugged me forward like a thief who knows the cameras are off. "Rule," she said, shutting the door with the gentle click of a practiced liar. "We don't talk about anyone who isn't in this room." "That eliminates most of my conversational crutches," I said. "Solene," she said, and kissed me like she was finally drinking water. We didn't cross the explicit line. We drew it, then walked along it with our eyes closed. Skin, yes. Detail, no. Mouths, yes. Choreography, no. We did the kind of touching that you can describe on radio and still make the host blush. I remember the place where her neck softened into shoulder, the way she inhaled when I found the inside of her wrist with my mouth, the quiet laugh when my hands learned the curve of her hip as if it were a new instrument. We were careful, and it was ruinous. After, I lay on the carpet beside the bed because I needed the texture of something honest under my palms. Tessa lay above me, hair a little wild, sweater now a suggestion. "Why 1709? I asked the ceiling. "It's the only room with a balcony that pretends to be private," she said, and the only one where the neighbor is a diplomat who never uses it. Lucky, I said. Deliberate, she corrected. I left just after midnight, the kind of hour that feels like a secret no matter what you were doing. In the hall, as the door clicked shut, I slid the keycard into my wallet because habits are harder to break than laws. In the elevator, a mirror showed me the face of a man who had made a choice and filed it under later. Later arrived fast. Harper noticed my new habit of staring out windows as if I had investments in the sky. "You're doing that thing," she said one evening, pouring sparkling water into a glass like it was a ritual. "What thing?" "The thing where your body is here and your brain is editing voiceover," she said with a smile that had saved me a dozen times from telling the wrong truth. "If you want to cancel tonight, cancel." "I don't," I lied. The second hinge was a message from Marcus, the founder whose nonprofit Tessa helped make photogenic. Marcus believed he was saving the city. He also believed that any bad numbers could be taught to behave. We'd taken him on as a client for a light-touch audit to soothe a wary grantor. He wrote, "Nate, confidential. Sanity check on our outreach stats. Tessa CC'd. Board wants proof to frame and hang." Tessa replied before I could, "Sending you a story that scans as true." The package she sent me had tables like a handsome liar, clean lines, steady fonts, the right amount of white space. Her narrative put perfume on the math. She hadn't manufactured numbers, not exactly. She had encouraged them. The difference is a distinction that makes careers and enemies. "Make it better," she texted me. "Not perfect, believable." I wrote footnotes that turned bravado into caution. I carved off claims that would draw fire and replaced them with ones that would absorb it. It was honest enough to survive scrutiny and gentle enough to make donors feel clever for believing. In the margin of my soul, a red pen circled the sentence, "You're laundering truth for a woman you shouldn't be touching." A week later, an envelope slid under my apartment door. No return address. Inside, a single glossy photo of the balcony of 1709, my hand on Tessa's waist, her head tilted, our bodies lit by a city pretending it didn't notice. It wasn't porn, and yet it was proof. Underneath, a sticky note, "The city is small, E." There's always an E. Sometimes it's a first initial. Sometimes it's a grade. In my life, E was Everett Lane, a venture capitalist who sat on Marcus's board and believed in influence the way some men believe in legacy. Everett treated every room like a market and every person like a stock that could be made to perform. He invited me to breakfast at a place with low ceilings and high prices, the kind where the butter looks like sculpture. "Someone sent me a picture you might prefer to curate," he said over coffee he didn't drink. He slid the glossy toward me with 2 fingers. "How thoughtful," I said, pretending my stomach hadn't learned to tie knots. "You're talented," he continued, "at making difficult stories sound responsible. We need that. Marcus needs that. The city needs Marcus to look like a man who can be trusted with other people's generosity." "And you," I said. "I need Marcus not to embarrass me," he said. "I like my philanthropy solvent." "What do you want, Everett?" "A report that keeps foundations comfortable," he said, "and the good sense not to turn a balcony into a bargaining chip I might play." He smiled, a rehearsal of sincerity. All very civilized. "If I say no." "The city is small," he repeated, tapping the photo, "and at our altitude everyone looks down." I let the quiet hold the weight. "You won't send it," I said eventually. "You like leverage better than scandal." He tilted his head, pleased that I'd learned his language quickly. "Let's never find out." Tessa and I met in the back booth of a bar that dimmed the lights to flatter consequences. She wasn't surprised. She rarely was. He always thinks he's keeping the worst part of himself off camera, she said. He forgets the way his voice sounds. You knew he'd seen us? I asked. I knew someone would, she said. People love catching other people mid-decision. What do you want me to do? Choose me, she said, and took my hand under the table. Or choose the man you are without me. I didn't answer, which is a kind of answer. The report went out the next morning. My edits kept us out of court and inside the Grant window. Everett sent a 2-word reply, good judgment, that made me want to wash my hands. Marcus sent me a bottle of bourbon with a note that said, to integrity, which is funny if you like gallows humor. Tessa texted a single heart then, 17:09 tonight. I said no. It was the first clean no I'd given her. It left a taste. She didn't argue, which is how I knew it wasn't over. We were both saving energy for a larger fight. Harper found the keycard 2 days later. I had slipped my wallet into the bowl by the door, the way a man who thinks he has his life in order does. The card slid free like a confession. She held it up between 2 fingers. Hotel Oran, she said, reading the gold. Since when? It's not. I began and stopped because my mouth was about to turn into a defendant. Her face didn't break. It rearranged into someone older and harder. I always thought if you cheated, you'd do it on a spreadsheet, she said softly. You're not careless, Nate. I took the card from her and did the reckless thing. I told the truth. Not the full truth, just the part that felt like a door opening into air. I've been seeing someone, I said. It's new, it's complicated, it's stupid. Is it love? She asked immediately, calmly, like a nurse triaging. Not yet, I said. Maybe never. I searched for a word that wouldn't convict me. It's a different gravity. She nodded once as if a chart had clarified. Then it's already enough, she said, and went to the bedroom. She packed in 20 minutes, the way people do when they've been practicing in their heads. At the door, she turned and said, You always hated pictures with too much saturation. I should have noticed you were editing us paler. After she left, I put my head against the door because sometimes wood is better company than air. A minute later, a second envelope came under the same door. I picked it up because that's what you do when the universe insists. Inside, a screen grab from an internal email chain, Everett to Marcus, CC the board. Bram's work stabilized donor sentiment. I'll manage the balcony exposure if needed. I read manage like own. I went to the hotel. It was late enough to be early. I took the elevator to 17 and knocked because knocking felt like penance. Tessa opened with her hair down and her mouth unresolved. She left, I said. I'm sorry, she said, and the way she said it made me believe she understood the shape of loss even with my fingerprints on her sweater. Everett's collecting us, I said. He's using the balcony like a bank. She leaned her head against the doorframe, eyes closed. He's been collecting me for years, she said. Not in the way you think. In the way men collect proximity to women like me because it makes them feel modern. We can refuse to be currency, I said. We can, she said, but only if we stop giving him interest. We didn't kiss. We sat on the floor, a habit of mine when decisions get tall. She told me about her first job, the way she learned to move donors like chess pieces without making them feel moved. I told her about the first time a client asked me to fix numbers that were just stubbornly true. We shared the part of ourselves that feels most at home in the gray. I can't keep being your hinge, she said finally. I need to be a door you walk through or one you close. Why does everything with you sound like a metaphor? I said. Because metaphors keep me from bleeding, she said, and laughed a little at herself. In the end, we wrote a letter together to the board, Marcus, the chair, the women on it who knew exactly how men like Everett operate when the checkbooks are closed. We wrote cleanly about numbers and gently about optics. We included a line that said, "No one in this organization should feel like their private life is a lever." We didn't name Everett. We CC'd him. It was polite violence. He called an hour after the email went out. "That was messy," he said. "It was careful," I said. "You think this saves you?" he asked. "I think it saves the part of me that still works for people who deserve help," I said. "And maybe it saves the next woman you decide to shepherd." "You'll regret this," he said. "Probably," I said, "but I'll regret it with a clean inbox." He didn't leak the photo. He liked leverage too much to burn it, but his orbit cooled. 2 weeks later, Marcus told me Everett had rotated off the board to focus on family. Donors learned a new phrase for something old. Tessa repositioned the story as a renewal of values. She was good at that. The new treasurer asked me to present transparency best practices to the staff, and I watched Tessa sit in the back row, eyes on me like I was worth the seat. Harper didn't come back. She sent a box of things I'd left at her place: a sweater, a toothbrush, a book we'd pretended to read at the same pace. She included a note: "I hope you find a quieter gravity," and a photo of the two of us at a beach last fall. We looked edited but kindly. I met Tessa at a coffee shop that believes in ceramic cups and patience. We sat close without touching. We had earned the right to touch and were waiting to see if the right wanted us back. "What do you want?" she asked. "A life that doesn't need angles," I said. "And me?" she asked, very small. "I want you without someone standing on a balcony counting our breaths," I said. "I want you without a hotel number." "What side of the door?" she said. "Inside," I said, "with the keycard thrown away." She smiled like a sunrise edited down to a warm stripe. "Come on," she said, standing. "Do it now." We walked to the Orin. I took the 1709 card from my wallet, rubbed the corner where my thumb had learned to live, and slid it into the slot in the lobby's brass trash. It went down like a coin and didn't sing. On the street, we held hands, as reckless as teenagers, as practical as people who have run out of better ideas. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. The day did that for us, light finding the part of our faces that had forgotten how to be seen honestly. Sometimes at night, when the city is playing its private music and the windows stop pretending to be walls, I think about leverage and how it sounds when it loses its grip. I imagine that photo of us on the balcony yellowing in a folder on Everett's hard drive, becoming less useful each day. I imagine Harper curating a life with someone who tells the truth, even when it doesn't flatter the room. I imagine Tessa falling asleep on my shoulder while my phone sits face down like a well-trained pet. I keep fewer things now. I still keep receipts because the world is built on paper, but I let go of small lies and objects that unlock rooms we have no business in. When I walk past the Orin, I don't look up. I hold the hand of the woman next to me and say the one sentence that has finally learned to sound like a decision made out loud. "Let's go home."